Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. We've been a little late getting to the show, but we're here. Ironically enough, Marcus needed Monday off, then I needed Tuesday off, so yeah, it's kind of how it shakes out. I'm about to start a 3 out of 4 day stretch of days off from my physical intent job, and I'll be spending all of it writing for my other job. That's my life now. But I was thankful enough that I was able to watch Hard to Kill this weekend. The return of TNA. Spoiler alert. Nick Nemeth's in the promotion. Was it the big massive signing we were promised? I don't think so. Has his debut already gotten 1 million views on YouTube? According to Scott Demore. I'm about to go independently verify. So, maybe. We have a packed show for you tonight. We're going to talk about Hard to Kill. We're going to talk about the Nick Nemeth signing. We're going to talk about Trinity's true departure and legacy. Mostly because somebody said that she was on par with AJ Styles and Kurt Angle. And that made me irrationally angry. It's like when you say, oh yeah, you like good comic book movies? I too appreciate them. My favorite is Howard the Duck. More like, Howard the Duck, are you serious? That actually turned out a lot better than I thought it would. So we will talk about that. We'll talk about Alexander Hammerstone and a little bit more. But Marcus, initial thoughts on the show before we get into the beat by beat review. What was your takeaway?
Hell of a comeback, great way to kick off the year with a bang and make a statement. This is the most across the Wrestle airways, the most buzz and press I've seen them get across multiple platforms and within the wrestling IWC zeitgeist in a while. So, I think whatever intentionality was going off into it, I think it very much paid off.
It was a hell of a show. There was a lot of uniqueness there. I love the setup of the ring. I love the TNA in the center of the ring. I'm a big fan of that. Not a big fan of the connecting bridge of it all. We've seen that before a time or two. That was a Hulk Hogan era staple, which I was hoping we'd leave behind. It's also the same thing that caused Adam Cole to mess up with, I don't know, his vagina. I don't like Adam Cole. I can't feel sympathy for that douchebag. But like he jumped off the rampway at an AEW show, and I think it was his knee or his ankle he torqued up real bad. So like it's really just an unnecessary thing. I don't know why we feel the need to have that type of like shtick. I like a straight no stage ramp, like not ramp, like a straight aisle out.
I think it's because for moments like what we got with Jake something where he torpedoed into the ring.
Yeah. It does add some optical value.
Yeah.
Like we saw it with the Saban Canadian Destroyer. Great shout out to Pete Williams. But like when I think of like pro wrestling, I think about the pageantry of it all, but I also think about the gladiator aspect, the gladiatorial aspect. And I maybe it's because I'm a little bit older. I remember playing those WWE, WWF Wrestle. What the hell they were? They kind of just remade them for like a few years ago, but they didn't use WWE. They used like the old games where like the characters would come out just and like WrestleMania. WrestleMania used to be like you just walked out and you walked down the aisle. There was no ramp, there was no structure, and I find that. What's the word I'm looking for? Not simplicity, but that minimalistic approach to presentation to be far more aesthetically pleasing than the pomp and circumstance of it all. So like I would prefer no ramp, I'd prefer no stage. I did like the return or the semi-return of the tunnel. I would have liked more of the tunnel, not just like a few odds and ends. Because it felt like they were like, hey, do we have any of the pieces of the tunnel left? I got a quarter panel and some lights. That'll work.
Yeah, yeah, them classic TNA days when they used to. The best part about the tunnel was they used to come from inside with the wrestlers,
Mm-hmm.
and then obviously they had pyro, which I'm still a big stickler for. But that uh, went along with a certain era, particularly that the AJ Styles era with the pyro shower that I very much miss. But yeah, it's good to see them, still incorporating a lot of the elements of the old with the new, and then bringing it all together to kind of just hone the new version of what teenage become. So it's cool, but just much like you said, it would be cool to see that classic coming up from behind with the person out. But yeah, at least they put the element of it in there. So
It was a nice little callback. It was a nice little moment where you got to see what really could be a nice building block over time. Like I know they're done, quote unquote, for now, but I feel like there's something there for the next time they want to add some stuff. The only other point of reference worth noting, one, there was a lot of ads, so like that was great. Um, and but the other one was they had Hammerfan and Raywald up in the actual balcony area, which I
yeah,
like. I like when they actually do like pro sports types of things. You would never see Iron Eagle sitting on the courts, right? You'd never see Joe Buck at the 50-yard line. They're in their own little areas for a reason, and I wish we could get more of that in pro wrestling. So I liked it. Let's talk about the card itself. The pre-show was a lot of fun. Macklin defeated Rich Swann. I loved Swann's attire. I thought that was one of the best looks of the night. It was a kind of like an evil Knievel look, and I think Swann should really go into that kind of I don't want to say gimmick so much, but like that aesthetic, but also maybe gimmick. Like having Swan being like an out and out daredevil, because he to the best of my knowledge, he likes snowboarding, he likes trick sports, so I feel like that would be an easy kind of meshing of who he is, what he likes, and a character that would pop. Because if you have Rich Swan, the crazy stunt guy who's doing big, dynamic attempts, to razzle dazzle the crowd, you can give him a character and personality that may supersede what he's had. Because one of the things that I think has held Swan back has been a lack of the actual gimmick and personality. Like he's just fun, happy guy, and I feel like you could add layers and improve upon it. Mark, any thoughts on the Macklin Swan stuff?
yeah. I mean, look, that's two of the to me the company still is Macklin's come a ways and really uh, made himself was in the zone of making himself a staple in the company. Like I said, I think he had one of the best matches in the company last year with Alexander. Like I said, if I didn't know beforehand, he wouldn't have been able to tell me that wasn't a title match. But it was one of the best grudge matches we've seen in a while. As for Rich Swann, we know how dependable he's been. Definitely one of the workhorses of the company. Putting them two together was great. Clash of styles and whatnot, and personalities, and actually probably something they running back because I think the last time they clashed, correct me if I'm wrong, was in a street fight where Macklin also won on his way to getting the Impact World Championship match. So yeah, I think he two up on Swan now, but yeah, fun match. Like you said, 100% agree with you on the Swan look, but he always seems to be intentional about switching up certain looks and whatnot. And I think you're right because I think he came out with some snowboarding goggles
Mm-hmm.
for a while. So yeah, it'll definitely a lot of room for him to incorporate more of that stuff into his personality because he's also somebody, unfortunately, that post his world title run, he's kind of been all up and down the card and being viewed as kind of an all-purpose guy that you can kind of just plug and play, particularly outside of his work with OVE and Sam Callahan specifically. So, they do need to be more intentional. Hopefully, they're more intentional this year about giving him something more consistent, both character and opponent wise.
I absolutely agree. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Swan. Hopefully, they do more with this kind of look and this style that he's got going. But only time will tell on that one. The next matchup was the System, Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers defeating Frankie Kazarian and Eric Young. This was fine for what it was. I don't think it was all that noteworthy, other than we found out that D'Angelo Williams was back in TNA. So that'll be interesting to see how long he's around for, if he's around long at all. He may have just been doing the solid for Moose because they used to be teammates, I think, in Carolina. I think that's why he's around. Then we had Crazy Steve defeating Tommy Dreamer in a no DQ match for the TNA Digital Championship. This was as good, if not better, than most of the main card. Dreamer was down 40 pounds. He and I actually had a little exchange on in our DMs. Super happy to see him, getting himself back to where he needs to be a good performer. Because I don't think he's over the hill. Like he's not in his prime. He's 50. But Dreamer was never a guy who was overly athletic or, Ricochet at 50 is going to be a very awful thing to watch, right? But John Moxley or, Dreamer, that's a style that ages gracefully, which is ironic. It's why guys like Kojima and Nagata are wrestling Alex Kane in MLW for the world title. And guys like Liger and Muda have been, specifically Liger, has been retired for a few years. Some styles don't age well.
Yeah, wait a minute. Even though it's a new year, you got to do your classic Kojima bit.
Kojima, lariat. Stolen directly from CM Punk, who was ribbing then Ring of Honor promoter Gabe Sapolsky, impersonating Homicide all along the way. Are you happy that Crazy Steve ended up taking the belt?
Absolutely, we've been calling for it. It's the way it should always go on, and kudos to Dreamer for always, lining up guys like Steve. I mean, this is kind of what his career is at this point. Also, shout out to him real quick for the 40 pounds, losing 40 pounds, because that's just not only good aesthetically, but just for his health in general.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. And to your point about Dreamer, he's like we do talk about it. Like there are a few wrestlers that can, come out of nowhere and kind of on the dime, just elicit real emotion, kind of in an instant when he needs to call upon it. On top of being kind of locked in as a hardcore wrestler and understanding, having a great foundation of understanding about psychology and whatnot, he's really locked in. So you match that with the improved physicality with the weight loss, and he's definitely somebody that you can depend on consistently. And like you said, that match was as good as anything on the card, and something that both people deserve because they put in a lot of work towards the middle/back half of the year leading to that match. So even though it couldn't make the main card, they definitely did their thing in that match. It definitely was the match they needed to have, and definitely got the right result with Steve. Looking very much forward to seeing what he does with the championship. And I was wanting to get your take on this because I saw this on Twitter. Also, about to talk about they kind of look forward to seeing like more stuff being done, like actually digitally with the championship. Maybe fans voting on like matches or opponents or whatnot. Because you can't just call it that and then not have that element consistently put into it.
So I don't know how much I want to see that happen. Only because one, it's too easy to fake those results. Two, it's too easy for fans to hijack the intention of that. The idea of having like a Cyber Sunday-esque situation is intriguing, but the Digital Media Championship is defended on digital media. That's kind of the whole shtick. That's why, instead of it doing it on a pay-per-view or on TV, it's done usually on PLEs, your premium live events. Because the Impact show was broadcast, not Impact, but the Hard to Kill show was. It's gonna take me a while to get back to just TNA, not Impact.
Yeah, same.
Hard to Kill was broadcasted on whatever the new name for Fight is. They mentioned it a few times, but the the digital media defenses are usually defended either on YouTube or on the TNA Plus app. So like they do have that element of it being a digital media championship. It's the only belt usually defended on that, which is why it's a pre-show title, because it doesn't air directly on any pay-per-view broadcasts indirectly. So I think that's enough for it, but I may be doing it, but it would have to be it would have to be a live show. So like it would have to be either like a premium live event or like a live broadcast of TNA. Or it would have to be done on one of their like travel cards that they do, where they like record basically like a super house show essentially, and have some type of fan interaction there to warrant it. I don't want to just see them start doing like, because like in my head, Marcus, I'm thinking of when they made the X Division a triple threat title only.
God, yeah.
That's what I'm worried about happening with the Digital Media Championship. If you throw a giant gimmick onto it, like fans have to vote for every match or fans have to vote for every opponent, I feel like doing it like in like a Cyber Sunday 1 year, like 1 day a year situation is the best way to optimize that. But even then, I don't think it needs anything like that. I think you just need to have good matches with compelling storylines. And I think fans will accept it for what it is. That's what we did with the European title. That's what we did with the television title. The television title is defended on pay-per-views. The European title is held by non-Europeans. If it's a title that has people wanting it, that has a burgeoning prestige to it, and as long as it's held in a high enough regard and makes people in the process so that they can elevate it, I think the digital media title is fine as is. That's just my personal opinion.
No, I like that. I like that counter argument because like you said, if you make it too gimmicky, it will harken back to those dark days, and that just everything that came with the way they watered down the X Division is some of the darkest days in that particular era, and that's saying a lot considering what was going on back then. So yeah, but kudos to Steve. This is his first singles title, correct? So
In TNA, yeah.
yeah.
So then we got the Ultimate X match of the Knockouts. I will say this, I wasn't excited about this match. This match over-delivered my expectations. Firstly, let's get to the winner, Giselle Shaw. I don't care for her as a wrestler. She's not very athletic. She's slow. She's almost what is it? Goofy-footed, I think is the term. She doesn't have. She's very toned, looks fantastic, but when she moves, you're like, oh, she's not very athletic, and like that would work in an era where Brooke Tessmacher and Taryn Terrell are your champions, right? I just ended up watching 12 minutes of Danny Luna chucking bitches like they were cupcakes. I'm sorry, the bar has been raised too high for Giselle Shaw. 1, to be a champion. 2, to be a wrestler in this company. I think this company has exceeded her talents, and they need to move on from her. Not necessarily as an employee. I do find her very interesting as a character, but I do not think Giselle Shaw is the talent needed for this company. I think Deonna Purrazzo, who's now in AEW, I think she's like a B- type of talent, and I think Trinity was a B+. The only A talent I think they've had in some time is Jordan Grace. After watching Danny Luna, there's potential there for her to be another A talent.
I think specifically, and I always root for Tasha Steelz and Lish, always little dynamos. But this, and I said this before when we were doing a preview, this was essentially a showcase match. I don't think I called for Lish to win it just because I just think there's a lot to play with there, particularly with what we had suspected was going to be the outcome of the Knockouts championship match. But I think obviously she had a championship last year and probably one of the best feuds within Trinity's reign. So she still got a ways to go and, could probably get some shots this year. But I think this was ultimately a showcase match for Threat, Luna, and Brooks. And somebody like Shaw is more developed character wise, because that's the only thing those three women are missing. And
Mm-hmm.
by the way, I hope like the company locks those three down. Particularly, obviously, they got threat, but definitely Luna and Brooks. I can very much see her climbing. But yeah, Shaw is somebody that's more locked in character wise that kind of go back and forth with Grace. We've kind of seen it. I'm not gonna say done to death, but we've seen it a lot. But that should be interesting. Getting Grace as she, I guess, gets past Trinity in a potential rematch, and then moving that next, because essentially it's always going to be a 3-on-1 situation with Shaw, so that'll provide an immediate, I guess, uphill climb for somebody like Grace, who could have a moment where she basically hosses all three of them leading into a championship match.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just think it was a showcase match, and to your point, undersold, over delivered. Uh, which you really should never undersell the knockouts, because these women have been delivering for years. But yeah, it was some great stuff. These women kind of have consistently gone out their way, because this is the second or third women's X Division match. I mean, Ultimate X match.
I want to say second.
Yeah, yeah, but they 2 for 2 with delivering with these matches, man.
Truly awesome. Danny Luna's power was incredible. Jody Threat really did show a unique side door, which I would like to see expanded upon more. I'm a big fan of Jody. Now I'm a big fan of Danny Luna. Zaya Brookside did some nice high flying stuff. Alicia, I think, did a little something. So did Tasha. Giselle probably did the least amount of stuff, but that's again, not to harken too hard on it. I don't want it to sound like we're bullying her because I don't. I believe criticism is fair. I believe nastiness is unnecessary. But Giselle definitely did the least amount of stuff in the ring because she's the least physically gifted, at least physically capable of doing this stuff. So like it makes sense that she didn't stand out at all. But they really need to push Danny Luna specifically because she was really impressive in this. And I'd like to see more from that. PCO defeated Dirty Dango by DQ. We were wondering why this match was on the card. Now we knew why. That ended up going into a 6-man tag where Rhino, Jake Something, and PCO tagged up to take on Alpha Bravo, Oleg Prudius, and Dirty Dango. The 6-man was fine. It was a little bit of fun. I like that. A lot of hosses on the face side. That was great. Rhino, following in Dreamer's lead, seemed to be down about 30 to 40 pounds as well. So that was great to see. PCO I like and hate at the same time because I'm like, this dude is 54. He's got a great gimmick. He's got a good look for his gimmick. I didn't like his black and blue look. He looked like the sixth member of the Backstreet Boys from circa 2001 and just couldn't let go of the black and blue album. That's a deep cut reference if I ever had one. But now he looks more like the monster that he claims to be. Prudius, I unironically love. Somebody asked like, who's the worst wrestler that you like? Probably Oleg Prudius. but I've liked him for a long time. So like, I like this match. It wasn't great. It didn't need to be on this card. You could have swapped the Dream or Steve match with this, and I think you'd have been fine. But I think it did enough. It got Rhino and PCO and something on the card. It got Prudius a nice little match, and they're building off storylines for this. And I'm going to say this unironically, the guy who beats Chris Sabin, I think should be Dirty Dango. I don't think Fandango's as good in the ring as he used to be. You know, he used to have a very high-flying, fast, high-impact offense. He's now in his early 40s. That's not going to exist. But this I Hate Wrestling gimmick would work really well, I think, as a Next Division champion. And I think it would give the next face of the division something to strive for. Like, so whoever it may be. I think it could be a real interesting idea to go with should they want to. Were you disappointed at all by the 6-man tag?
6-man tag was fine, like you said, what it needed to be. Wasn't gonna steal the show. Didn't need to. I just needed to get some good shenanigans in there, and they got that done. You know, shout out to Rhino and and those guys. You know, then Dango and Oleg and all that. Still can't get over that name. That's a great name. That's a great villain name. Um,
He actually was a villain. He was in one of the John Wick's movies as a villain, I'm pretty sure.
oh, well, that actually makes sense. That tracks. That makes sense. But the Dirty Dango, yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily know because I look forward to They show stealer type matches when I think about the X Division championship these days, and but to your point, that'll play into the gimmick of hating wrestling, so holding it hostage, and it might set up the guy who I think should probably be set up next, who should have next, and our big boy Jake something, who was the third man for this match, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he was brought in after the fact to do some damage.
Yeah, and much to what we were talking about on a preview show. Um, Very much somebody as well that we would very much like seeing more consistent intentionality of having him with a definitive direction in the new year, because that kid's just too big and he got too many intangibles to waste. So if you're going to, I think, put him in a spot, if it's going to be about no limits instead of weight limits, making him ex-champion, it's a choice, and I think it one that would definitely benefit him.
It's either got to be him or John Gresham at this point.
Would you do it in a one-on-one or a multi-man to kind of not have Saban be pinned?
So, well, no, I would have. So, if we're doing this in a linear sense, Saban needs to get his shoulders pinned by Dango. It could be by hook or by crook. But do a one-on-one storyline where Dango challenges Saban, basically doing the whole "I don't like wrestling, I don't like the X Division. If I win this belt, I'm gonna turn it into the Sleaze Division or what have you." And have Saban take up arms against the X Division, but then maybe beat Dango, but do it in a way where Dango's like, all right, yeah, you beat me, but what if we didn't allow you to roll me up? And Saban, of course, wanted to show him, goes, all right, let's do a no DQ match, and then the entire match is just Oleg Prudius beating up Saban for 15 minutes until Dango hits him with like a chin lock or something. It's just something very basic and boring and gets the win. And then you could spin off Saban into doing something with Prudius, or maybe what I would think might happen is either reunite the Guns in the tag team division, or have Shelley turn heel and have Saban and Shelley have a feud. I think that could be a lot of fun. And then, however you want to end the Dango Saban of it all, then you have Jake something and or John Gresham start right off into a feud with Dango. Give Dango 3 to 4 months as champion. Then you have whoever you pick, be it something or Gresham, take the belt off of Dango. That's the general route of how I would do it. So, speaking of how I do it, I don't know if I do it this way. The Knockouts had a big title change. MK Ultra, Killer Kelly, and Masha Slamovich lost the belts to Decay, Havoc, and Rosemary, who returned not just to television, but as their past gimmicks. Because they were doing the Jessica, which did not work, and Courtney Rush gimmicks. Now, I will say this, again, I believe Havoc is our third wrestler on the card to have lost some weight. She looked to be in a little bit better shape, and she was moving a little bit better, so I was happy to see that. I think she, like Dreamer and Rhino, has her long road ahead of them in terms of getting back into really good ring shape, because Jessica's not a good worker. She's slow, she's cumbersome, she doesn't work well, and that's disappointing because I remember 13, 14 years ago watching her in Cleveland All Pro Wrestling and thinking to myself, this chick's going to be huge one day as a wrestler if someone scoops her up and gets her to really develop a character. And to see that she really never obtained that kind of personification, that type of luster and allure, is a little bit disheartening, because I'm not usually wrong when it comes to wrestling talents. So I would like to see her get back into a bit better shape so she can work better. Seeing her and Rosemary back, though, was great. I don't know if I would have done it. I would have had them win it eventually. I don't know if I would have done it at Hard to Kill, because it feels like MK Ultra didn't have a great run with the titles, and that's something that I'm going to say for the next 2 or 3 title matches. So I really feel like the TNA Knockout Tag Team titles could have been on Kelly and Slamovich for longer. I feel like you could have done more. I feel like you could have done Danny Luna and Zaya Brookside. You could have done Jody Threat and whoever. You could have done Alicia and Giselle. There was so much more meat on that bone that I feel like they rushed it way too fast. What's your thoughts, though, on the TNA Tag Team Title Championships?
100% agree, bro. Yeah, cool if Havoc drops some pound lbs as well. Always great to see Rosemary back. I
Rosemary
was
looked fantastic too. She
yeah,
she,
she's
she looked in
back
the
to
best shape
OG.
of her career.
Yeah, she looks like back to that like those early decay days, whatnot, and that's kind of how I was introduced to. I found out about Courtney Rush, through Rosemary. But I'm glad that's kind of over the whole playing dumb and fun thing. Kind of got old quick, and it's cool to see them back in full effect. But to your point, I don't think they treated or booked MK Ultra as good as they actually are. Certainly not as a tag team. And it kind of came off like because that was the one thing that they did that probably caught fire more than they had intended. And they ran with it, but I don't think they ran in the best direction with it. Because to your point, they should have had it longer and they should have been more of a consistent focus across the show during the year, and they really weren't. And you can kind of feel like the midst of that because it felt like this was an afterthought. Like, well, I don't even think we got introduced to their titles the same way as they did the others.
Yeah, no. So that they did do it. Now, apparently, what ended up happening was, and I caught this on social media on Twitter. Apparently, all the titles being handed out were done at the last show, before this one, and I believe that one of them, I think it may have been Masha, it may have been Killer Kelly. They couldn't make the show, so
Okay.
they had to wait until the day of to do it, simply because of timing issues. So it
Gotcha.
wasn't so much that they were trying to not disrespect them because that's not the Morse ideology, but it wasn't like they were trying to underplay it. It was just that they didn't have time to do it properly like the other ones. Now I do think there is a video of them getting it, and we'll talk about the titles here in a little bit because our last show we only covered some of them. But it was just one of those situations where it was unfortunate of how everything shook out.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I really thought that they should have done more, and I also thought that maybe doing like a Trinity triple threat with Kelly and Slamovich, where Trinity had to take on both women in the same match, would have been fantastic. And we'll talk more about my thoughts on Trinity's run here in a second. But I
Yeah.
thought that would have been something that would have helped solidify her and her run. But I feel like the MK Ultra run wasn't as fulfilling as it should have been.
Yeah, same man. Like I said, it felt and this felt so and I mean they said on commentary like it's kind of like a last minute thing. I'm like, okay, if you're gonna do that, I would prefer that, you know, to have more intentionality with your champions, but they had such a full card. I get it. But if you're gonna do that, have it to where they were very close to losing. And then to your point, they could kind of build that out across the upcoming tapings where it's like, you know, kind of like the cage just kind of like on their ass, like we came this close to getting the straps, one more shot, and that's a wrap. And then you can kind of have MK, going back and forth with them, not ducking them, but very much, kind of working around them or whatnot. You can kind of build that up until the next show, and then if you wanted to do it, you could drop the titles. But even then, I might not necessarily do it because to your point, they're just too good together. And I might have them elevate that match to something like hardcore because these women will be down for it. Uh, Maybe go to their specialty, which brought them together in the first place, a dog collar, and elevate that level of brutality in a healthy but brutal title defense. And then to your other point, bring together somebody like a Joey Threat and a Zara Brooks or a Zara Brooks with a um the other young lady, and you could do it like that. You know.
I think it would have worked a little bit better had they waited.
Yeah.
Built up the like had maybe you go and you get someone a tag team off the street, have MK Ultra dog walk them, then you debut or not debut, but you return Decay at the end of the match and start building up to the next show in a few months. But they didn't, and everything's 2020 with hindsight. Saban took on El Hijo del Vikingo and Kushida. This felt a little bit. I liked it. It was a good match. Flat out good match. Oh, we gotta talk about a segment we skipped. Flat out good match, but I feel like they robbed us of Vikingo. I feel like either Vikingo was tired, or maybe he was hurt, but they had him not wrestle the same style he normally does. and the Kingo's style is chaos. So like watching him do map-based stuff, I'm like, oh, no, that's fine.
Do you
I thought that's
do you
what we
think
had Kushida for.
do you think that was them trying to differentiate what we've basically gotten all 2023 with him in AEW?
Maybe, and that's certainly a possibility, truthfully. It really is. But also, boo! That's like saying, hey, I brought you this cocaine, but it's actually pixie sticks. Hey, listen, I can make some pixie sticks. If I order cocaine, I expect cocaine, goddammit. And I feel like that's what I was ordering with the Vikingo. It's like, I wanted the cocaine madness that is El Hijo del Vikingo. I don't want him to be me. And I don't think it was me. Very talented. I just feel like he wasn't as advertised. I think that's the best way I can put it. And now I know he's better. Like I know he's fantastic. That's not the implication at all. I'm just saying, more please.
Yeah.
Josh Alexander defeated Jake Hammerstone, or Jake, sorry, not Jake, Alex Hammerstone in a singles match. This was my favorite match on the card. These two men beat the hell out of each other, and I feel like they didn't need to be as rude to each other as they were. There's a lot of slaps, a lot of chops, a lot of suplexes. Just,
One of Alexander's chops got caught in his muscle. Like, what the fuck is this dude, man? Like, I'm like, okay, everything Chad said, sign this bastard, sign him now. Like, this, you know what he looks like? You know Digimon, right?
mm-hmm.
He looks like the Digimon fusion of Thad and Reacher.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is hilarious because same actor.
Exactly. He has those. I'm like, this guy is like chiseled, like he looks like a white Hulk, but he's dashing. Like it's weird.
So I think you would now understand why I said he's Hulk Hogan without the racism. So he's definitely he needs to stick around long term. He's one of those guys that I think really makes the roster better. And with and I've mentioned this before, with Eddie not being what he once was, granted, physicality, age, the weight, it's slowed him down some. But there's a spot on top now for a guy who can, slide in and be the next top dude. And I feel like this is the opportunity for someone like Hammerstone to get that next level up. And I feel like unless the WWE signs him, I feel like he's not going to want to go to AEW because there's so much upheaval there. There's so much nonsense there.
It's a lot of bulky guys that, I mean, you got Cage there. I mean, look, he could be like the White Lashley for TNA. Like, have put him on a run like Lashley did when he basically held the world, the TV, and the X Division that one time when they just let him run roughshod.
I think it's the Grand Championship.
Yeah, the Grand, the X, and the world. Like, that was nuts, but he was killing it. But yeah, this guy, like, look, it's not too many people that can give Josh Alexander a problem. And he was a problem in that match. Like I said, Alexander threw a chop and it stopped. I'm like, what did he get stuck on? And then they put the camera on, like, holy hell, it's caught in between his chin and his tit muscle. It's all like this dude is something else. Like, yeah, they definitely need to lock him in. Like and that's gonna be coming up a thing too when we get to certain people that popped up on the show. We can't do these short-term dating things.
Nope, no more.
No more. Can't do it.
When I hope Hammerstone goes back to his acid-washed white jeans look, because that is peak Hammerstone. He's such a personality, and I feel like the black trunks doesn't really bring it out of him. But like he has such a personality, especially with his look, that it's like Orange Cassidy but on coke and steroids.
Can you imagine this dude going? Because this is definitely somebody that run into somebody like a PCO for whatever final reason. But Hammerstone versus a Jake something, or what I think is still a show, him and Macklin. Because that's a level of intensity too. But yeah, like it says a lot that this guy gave Alexander a run for his money, and Alexander was trying to match power and trying to technically break him down and was still catching hell. So like I said, this guy's he's something else, and I think it says a lot that two of MLW's most prominent stars, I think, uh, and Fatu and Hammerstone seem to be kind of popping up everywhere and may very well be up for grabs.
If Fatu ends up being a free agent, TNA needs to give him everything. Like him and Hammerstone are too good not to sign like they're CM Punk. So please don't fuck around. So let's talk about a segment that we skipped over before we get to the last three title matches. The AJ Francis rap promo. I knew it wasn't going to be good. I didn't realize that they would set us up so good though. So the whole shtick was it was bad. It was so bad. It was dumb. Boo. Then Joe Hendry came out and made fun of him. And I love Joe Hendry. Fantastic. Now, I was not a big fan of the idea of AJ Francis wrestling in TNA. Like, even a little. Truthfully, I feel like Shaq, I'd like to apologize. I didn't know much about your game. I still don't know if he's a good wrestler, but, like, during that whole segment, Henry's shown, but the moment that really drew me in, because, like, you don't see a lot of people do this well. They attack him. The DJ hit Joe Hendry with his laptop, and Joe Hendry's like, really, bitch? Like, really? And then Francis hit him with like a shoulder block and then picked him up for a choke slam and put him down. And the way Francis, now maybe it was Hendry. Maybe Hendry helped out real well. But I don't believe it was not enough on Francis to not give Francis credit as well. That choke slam was one of the best choke slams I've seen since Kane in the early 2000s. Like, he picked him up, but like the one thing that like you don't see, like, so usually they just pick him up and put him down. Francis yanked him, grabbed him by his belt and like lower pants, and brought him up and around a little bit on like an angle so he could slam him down better. And like the one thing I've always loved, and it was something that the 90s THQ games capture so well, is the unique movements within these wrestlers as they deliver moves.
Yeah.
You know, like Mick Foley did a pile driver, but he would grab the guy by the back of his pants and slide backwards. Kevin Nash wouldn't actually drive the guy down. He'd bring him up and let him fall. So like there's little moments that defined a guy.
Yeah,
like,
Undertaker's last ride, yeah.
Yeah, like how he would hoist him up. Raven and the way he would grab the arm and turn him into a DDT and drop him in a smooth, fluid movement. Francis's chokeslam, I don't want to sit here and say is the most unique chokeslam I've seen in some time, because it might be. I've seen a lot, though. But it's one of the most poignant ones I've seen. And even if that's his best move, I think that's enough to just see what he can do. I am not saying put the belts on him. I'm saying let's just see what maybe there's more here.
Yeah, I mean, look, if there's more here, there's fewer places that'll showcase it better than TNA. I mean, they've done it for everybody else. But yeah, look, that says a lot about how good that chokeslam was that you have changed your tune from blues to reggae. But yeah, I mean, look, man. Joe Hendry has yet to miss with these damn videos. I had to watch that thing like 5 times when it first dropped on Twitter. It's just hilarious. But yeah, if he was doing more stuff like that consistently in WWE, you know, he might have came off better, but he ultimately ended up being like fodder for Michael Cole commentary. But yeah, if he keep doing stuff like that choke slam and stick to not trying to be a luchador, like that's, you know, he'll be fine. You know, I think Joe Hendry is somebody that's a perfect opponent. And another kudos to Francis on that choke slam too. Joe Hendry ain't no little guy.
No.
Okay, you ain't missing no meals. So, you know, the fact that he put him down the way that he did does speak to, thankfully, that size and strength. So, like, you know, to your point, man, you know, I kind of watched a couple interviews with him, and, you know, we've seen a lot of people be misused in WWE. With a lot of potential. He seems to have a lot of confidence in himself and what he can do and what he's done. So if they can get the best out of him and put him in the right position, I'm down for it.
Speaking of down for it, we had an announcement at Hard to Kill that TNA was going to be working with AAA once again on a talent exchange. Um, I'm not over the moon with this only because there's not a lot of long term stability with the Hispanic Mexican talents. They don't stick around. Laredo Kid is here every 15 weeks. It feels like. But I will say this: if this means Vikingo is going to be on every major taping from here on out, yes, please. But I feel like this was a nothing burger. It's not something I have an issue with. I like my lucha libre. I do enjoy it. I just feel like this is not as impactful for the company as say the New Japan deal, because New Japan seems to be sending talent just about every other show, if not every show. And they were well represented on this show as well, because Kushida and Okada and technically Will Ospreay, even though he's a AEW guy, he's still technically under New Japan contract for the next few weeks. They were all here, and I feel like if you're going to get guys like El Hijo del Vikingo, I feel like then this partnership will make more sense. But if they don't get the biggest of the big from this promotion, there's no point in caring about it. So we'll see what happens there. Then we had the four-way tag match. ABC took on the Rascals, Speedball and the Laredo Kid, who was filling in for Trent Seven, who had issues. I don't know if he had visa issues or if it was just travel issues, as well as the Grizzled Young Veterans. The right guys won. ABC won. They're another group that I feel like their title run has not had the significance it should. And I feel like these multi-man matches aren't helping them, and TNA needs to stop doing them. Because I feel like it hinders ABC, I feel like it hinders the titles, and I feel like it hinders the relevancy and prestige of these belts. So hopefully they can change that up soon. Marcus, what's your thoughts on ABC retaining?
You said exactly. Look, they two of the best. They're one of the best tag teams anywhere right now. Put them against anybody in any two against any company. But yeah, like you said, these multi tag matches are doing them with disservice. I'm like, look, lock it down, close it up, do like a little mini tournament or something, or pick one of these teams from this match to have them go against and have them do a best of series with the Rascals.
That'd be dope.
I think that'll do what they did with and I know that you will know this off the head. I don't know if it was with the Wolves and the Hardys or the Wolves and LAX or whatnot, LAX and somebody else, but they did like a best of series with the matches, and I think it might have been the Hardys and the Douglas or something to that effect. Yes. Where they did a different stipulation every match.
Mm-hmm. And it was the first team to 2 wins, I think is what it was.
Yeah, come on, man. These will be early match of the year candidates if you do this with them. But you need to have it as a one-on-one thing, because to your point, like you almost take a back seat and discount just how good ABC are because of because of this very choreographed chaos that's going on. And like TNA do a great job at these chaos matches, but it's like you can have a show still in 2-on-2 tag match, and Impact's history is littered with it. So you're looking at teams like I said, the Wolves, Hardys, Beer Bunny, you name it, and you got to give these guys that chance, because these two were great separately, but they've been phenomenal together. So
totally agree.
Okay.
Absolutely agree. Next up, we had the women's title match. Jordan Grace defeated Trinity to win the Women's Knockout Championship. Firstly, Ash by Elegance, which is a great perfume name. She debuted for the former Dana Brooke. I'm trying to figure out, because her face looks different from when she first debuted, and I don't know if it was cheek fillers or if she just lost a little bit of weight, but she doesn't look the same as when she first debuted back in I don't know what it was, 2017.
I'm right there with you, and that ironic. I feel like we've had like a smaller conversation back in our brand banter days about how these women have evolved in a very interesting way in terms of their facial aesthetics. Like obviously we can easily point out body modifications and switch ups and whatnot, with certain chest augmentations, what have you. But she does not look the same, and I know she's very much been like a fitness competitor and whatnot. But um, it's like the Jordan Grace effect in the opposite direction.
Yeah, I do feel like Dana Brooke, because so Dana Brooke used to be a bodybuilder. And now what we could be seeing is when she debuted, we could be seeing kind of like that Mark Henry, for lack of a better term, muscle fat, where
Yeah,
strong as an ox, but still a bit of a hunky, chunky boy. And I feel like maybe that was what was going on with Dana Brooke. She was a bodybuilder, power lifter in sorts, but maybe she wasn't sticking to a meal plan as rigidly as one would hope, or not hope, but one would expect. Um, Maybe now she is. Maybe she knows at 35 this is her next best shot or her last best shot to establish a legacy. So she's gone all in. Now, granted, she's kind of had this look for the better part of a few years now. She doesn't even look the same from when she debuted to now. Like as just a human being, she looks like a vast. If you told me the woman who debuted on Hard to Kill was some brand new person, I would be like, yeah, no, I'd buy that. Like that doesn't look like anyone I've ever seen before. So I'm a little
yeah,
worried about that. Like, is she okay? Is it just plastic surgery? Because like, if it's plastic surgery, that's fine. Not one to judge. But we've
yeah.
also seen before, and granted, I don't think she's ill by any means. But like, I think back to that Chadwick Boseman when he went on and did that video, like where he's trying to get people to be nicer and calmer and whatnot. And everyone just dogged him for being, different looking. Turns out he was
Yeah,
fighting cancer at the time.
yeah,
So like maybe she went through something that we don't know about. I don't know. I'm just saying she looks a little bit different. That being said, I've been a big proponent of Dana Brooke for years, especially when she was that little powerhouse. So I'm still a proponent of her. And this Ash by Elegance, what a great name! It's very Shakara. What was it? What the hell was it called? It was like Grapefruit Sonata or something like that. It's on the tip of my tongue. Apricots. I think it was apricots. I can't remember now. Hang on, let's see if I can find it. How do you spell apricots?
Picots.
Maybe. Okay. Let's see if I can't find this. Oh, yeah, right. There we go. That's how you spell it. Still Life with Apricots and Pears. That is the name of the wrestler from Shikara. Still Life with Apricots and Pears. And it feels very much like Dana Brooks saw that and goes, bet.
Still, that is a long ass name. That
Yup.
reminds me of when Bakugo finally got his hero name that he came up with, and people was like, "The fuck,
Murder, Death, Explosion God.
Dynamite."
Oh, yeah, Dynamite, Murder, Death, Explosion God. And then fucking Ida was actually calling him it, and who was it? Fucking Lemillion was laughing at it. Adorable. Adorable. So I like the name. It's very much kind of like a perfume ad.
Yeah,
Deviants by Calvin Klein. It's like I like that. And I want to see what she does with this. I think it's a very interesting idea. There's too many people going, it's just like Toni Storm. We don't know that. What, because they're both blonde white chicks? They have the same gimmick? Calm the fuck down. Toni Storm is an overdramatic 1950s actress come to life. We don't know that that's what this is. Now, the involvement of Iceman is interesting. We'll see what he has to do there. but she's a nice addition to the Knockouts division. I want to see what they can do with her because like TNA has really achieved the ability to resurrect characters or like wrestlers and find a new path for them. And like I feel like if anyone is going to truly benefit from what we're seeing with like a new redesign for a character or a talent, I feel like it's Dana Brooke. I feel like Dana Brooke is going to have just a renaissance, if you will, in TNA. I think she's going to benefit from this greatly. That being said, the Jordan Grace Trinity match was a solid affair. Nothing that I would say is bad. But I feel like Trinity doesn't get out of second gear very often in a lot of her matches. And I feel like it's kind of held her back because I would not say personally, now I'm just one of many, I would not say personally that Trinity has had a match of the year candidate while in TNA. She's definitely not had a bad match since joining the company. But I can't sit there and go, oh, that match with Deonna Purrazzo was a banger. It was fine. Her match with Jordan was interesting. I liked it. She really did find ways to put over Jordan on her way out the door, and that's impressive. Marcus, do you feel like Trinity as a wrestler stood out as well as some people think she has with TNA?
Like most talent that come to TNA, to your point about them really finding new pathways of prominence and relevance for these guys, I think that's what, because we've always seen her ability. Like I said, we've gotten to see her literally grow up in front of us in WWE, and we've always known her ability with her athleticism and creativity and looks and all that. But because I think it was more consistent and prominently featured, a lot of that felt like it was just elevated. But to your point, I don't think she's not had a bad match by any means, but she's not had, I think this match with Jordan was one of her best matches I've seen in her wrestling tenure, and certainly I think her best match in the company that she had. And I think ultimately what that speaks to is she was not facing, and outside of Deonna, she didn't have a bunch of Jordan Graces to face during her run.
That's fair.
You know what I'm saying? Like Mickie James, and we always give Mickie credit. She's an absolute legend, but Mickie had a certain gear that was just, she was another person that wasn't getting out of a certain gear, even though she, had a physical match with Trinity. It was by no means, show stealing. But, that Lish was only going to be able to, do certain things. And like you said, we know what Deonna brings, a more technical aspect to it. But outside of Deonna, this is certainly the best thing that she's done because Jordan pushed her to another level. And I think that's what you need in these type of situations. So I think this is the best we've gotten with her. And I think they probably obviously go run it back because you got to do the rematch. You got to run it back for the stipulation of rematch clause. But, yeah, I dug this. The outpouring love and support from the crowd and whatnot. And certainly social media was great. And obviously, she definitely had support backstage, which we'll get to later. But, yeah, I think more so than anything, I think this is Trend's run ultimately. We speculate how it's going to go, but I think ultimately at the end of the day, this is probably one of the best examples of Impact TNA bringing somebody in and both sides having a intentionality of what they want to do and get out of the situation. I think it went great for both sides. Like I don't feel like the company got chipped off, or that this was a person that came in going on a vacation and whatnot, like we've seen in years past. And I don't think she took this for granted. This I think this gave her back the confidence boost that she lost in WWE, and it really showed what she can do when she's really given time and prominently featured. So I think this run has been really good for both sides.
I would agree that the run's been good for both sides. There was a question or a statement that was put out there that I thought was lunacy.
Yeah.
Where somebody said that when it's all said and done, Trinity's run with TNA will be on the same level as Sting and Kurt Angle and AJ Styles. Marcus, I nearly vomited blood. It's not that Trinity deserves to be dismissed. What Trinity has done in the last year for TNA is commendable. But it was a short run with the company. It was a short run with the belts. Like you said, she was not facing the best women's wrestlers that were out there to offer. I don't think she wrestled anyone in MK Ultra. I don't think she maybe had one match with Jordynne Grace. I want to say before either won the title picture. I want to say, I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But like, Deonna Purrazzo to me is a modern day Triple H. Not a great worker, but a good enough look and a good enough character that you actually believe that they are.
What's the Bret Hart quote? He's not the guy. He's the guy that works with the guy.
Yeah, and I feel like that's Deonna. Like, Deonna is a great compliment to Jordynne Grace. Be very aware of what I just said. She's a great compliment to Jordynne Grace. She's not a great compliment to anyone, or everyone, I should say. She's a great compliment to Jordynne Grace. That she could have built an entire career off the back of her feud with Jordynne Grace. And that's only because Jordynne Grace is the best women's wrestler in the game today, bar none. Now, that being said, I do agree, though, that Trinity didn't have the best of the few and the proud. With honor, sir. Nice little Will Smith reference to Men in Black. But I also feel like if you are as good as people say, you do elevate that competition, and I don't think she did. That doesn't mean that she was a bad champion or that she was not worth the signing, because she did bring in eyes to the product. Now, she brought in eyes comparatively. I went back like 6 or 7 months. I looked at the YouTube videos. She was like, if there was a pay-per-view or a TV show that span of days, because they'll release like 6 or 7 or 8 videos around Hard to Kill or Bound for Glory or what have you. Hers were always the second or third highest. So she did bring in views. Very rarely was she number one, and very often there were other people who had far more interest in the larger scope. So she did have a fan base, but it would not be the size of AJ Styles should he return. It would not be the size of CM Punk. It would not be the size of Becky Lynch or any number of other major A-plus tier level wrestlers. But she had a big enough size base, maybe low B's, where you could sit there and say this was a successful run. But saying it was a successful run is a very different statement than saying she is on par with AJ, Kurt, and Sting. There are maybe 7 people in all of WrestleDom that can say that about their tenure in TNA. She is not one of them. Gail Kim can say that. Awesome Kong can say that. I would argue James Storm can say that. Eddie Edwards, I think, could say that right now. Josh Alexander's on his way to saying that. Maybe Moose one day, not Trinity.
Yeah, it's well, you're gonna get those. I'm not gonna call them sycophants, but staunch.
I'll call them a sycophant. That's exactly what they are. They're sycophants. I know you want to be magnanimous and decent to people. I don't have the same desire. They're sycophants, Marcus. Emphasis on the ants and the sick.
Like, could you tell me what a flatulence smell like? Because we know where your head's at. But
pretty much.
But yeah, that is definitely blasphemy. Sting had a whole nother career. Angle, a whole nother career. AJ brought a lot of people, myself included, to the TNA product. Even with him, essentially, I think, because he's been in WWE longer than TNA at this point, right?
No. AJ was in TNA for 12 years?
Okay, just checking.
2002 to 2014, yeah. We'll say 11 plus.
Gotcha. But, yeah, those names. First off, not just the runs that they had in the company at the lengths that they were. Those are, like, Mount Rushmore guys.
Mm-hmm. Like, historically and across wrestling.
Exactly.
Not just the company.
Exactly. I love Trent, but I don't think she's a Mount Rushmore chick. She's great, but those guys had set standards and match qualities that just we haven't consistently seen from a lot of guys across generations. So Um, I can appreciate that, but like I said, ultimately, I think this run was probably the best example that we've had in a while of them bringing somebody in, understanding what it was, what it needed to be, and it effectively getting used across social media to bring eyes in, like you said, put the belt on, have her earn the belt, have a solid run, and that person both see elevation in the brand and elevation in them as a performer, and also those guys like Kurt Angle is essential. I mean, look, Sting will always be associated with WCW. But because of run he also had TNA, he's also associated with that. I would say the same now for Pilot Styles with TNA and WWE, and certainly Angle. He had a whole nother career with TNA. Trent has had a great run in TNA, but WWE's a home. That's kind of where it feels like she kind of fits it. So it's the exact opposite of how I felt when the club boys was there. We
Mm.
go call them the club boys. I'm like, would y'all please go to AEW because that's you feel like that's what you feel like. I didn't feel like that with Trent. I feel like I said, she had a pocket to do her thing in, and she did it. But essentially, she's going home. Now I don't necessarily know. Um, like I said, we got two interesting names that popped up here. If something could have been done that would have made her stay, but I don't know if that was ever the long term intention in the first place. And there's nothing wrong with that, because I think she used the time good. But when it comes to this match, to your original point and topic, we called it. Grace had next, and to that point of talking about these names, Grace is trying to cement herself into that spot in the company. When you think of, she said as much on a post match interview. I want people to associate my name with this company on the Mount Rushmore names that you associate with TNA. I don't know if that was evident going to be the intention with Trinity, and I don't know if it ever needed to be.
Yeah, I think for Trinity, and one, maybe my biggest issue is that they gave her the belt when she wasn't going to be around. That is something you and I have talked about a lot, especially in the recent months, about the forcing belts onto people who aren't going to be around. Like, if they put the belt on Nick Nemeth and he's champion for the next 3 years, I'm not going to be fine with it. Like, I don't find that entertaining. But, like, I'll have a vastly different set of reasons for why I don't like it. It won't be because, oh, you put it on an XWB guy. It won't be because, oh, you did it so fast. No, because if you're going to run him with the belt and he's going to be around for a while and you can trust and rest assured he'll be here, I don't
Yeah.
have a problem with it. At least
Hmm.
for the most part. But I also don't want to just throw belts on people for any old reason either, and I feel like that's what they do with Trinity. That's what they did with Subculture. I like Subculture. But they just threw
Yeah.
the belts on them
Hmm.
just to do it. And sometimes you didn't need to do that. I feel like Trinity would have been fine had they not done that. Because I feel like her run in TNA has been, in fact, fine. But
Yeah.
they really wanted the prestige. They really wanted, I'm sure they had, I'm sure the company had bigger aspirations for Trinity in terms of like how long they wanted her to stick around.
Yeah.
So like I can't fault them for trying to lure her over long term with the chance of like, look how well we can use you. Look at how wonderful we are with this title belt. We're giving it to you. Don't you love us? We love you. Stick around. And it didn't work. She left, or she's about to. It's unfortunate. It's life, though. What? As a great prophet once said, a true poet, Marcus, what you gonna do? What you gonna do, brother? Speaking of brother, Alex Shelley's brother won earlier in the night. Chris Sabin. Would he be able to retain and do so as well against Moose? The answer is no. Solid match. I don't know if Moose and Alex had a lot of chemistry. I feel like Moose has to work with a certain type of guy, and I feel like Shelley can only bring so much out of a person. It wasn't the best of matches. It was fine though. I don't know if I would sit here and say, however, that I was thrilled with the title change. I have some concerns because we mentioned before, like I didn't feel like Moose, and this is specifically because of how they decided to book the last 6 weeks of shows. I feel like Moose wasn't given a chance to build himself up for this match. He's a former champion. He won the Impact World title already. But, right? Didn't he? Yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah, he
He
did.
won the Impact and the TNA, the whole TNA championship. Let him tell it.
Yeah, he didn't win it. He found it and made himself champion. But I like to consider that the same thing.
Yeah.
So, like, it was fine. And I'm not sure what Moose is going to do as champion. I think the addition of the system, Eddie Myers, Alicia, and if he sticks around, D'Angelo Williams, I think that's an interesting group. And I feel like it might give Moose something to do. But it's mostly giving me League of Nation vibes.
Hmm.
Like, I feel like they're only together to give Nick Nemeth something to feud with. And if that's the case, I don't know why you took the belt off of Shelley.
Yeah, because to your point, but Dolph's also one of those guys going back to that last conversation we had that really feels like you can have a match with anybody.
True.
And I think him and Shad, oh, that was great. Him spitting the water and Moose face to kick it off. I love that. Yeah, I think there was a lot more things to be mined out of Shelley's run as champion. And to your point, that the last 6 weeks of booking didn't help because you kind of need to build some of this stuff. And Moose is a great chaser because he's bullied a lot of people on the show and really been good at it. And you just talk about just, the whole thing, styles make fights. Moose has a different style. Shelley, you got a size differential. That's really something you could have made into a thing properly built up. But yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if there's a bit of intentionality towards the trying to make the feast and fire thing more important instead of what it might have been in years past.
It's possible.
Yeah, there's a thing with that, but it's also weird too because this happened in a way where it feels like they did a version of what you talked about in the way you wanted to book Moose in the new year.
Mm-hmm.
With a faction, him leading, obviously it not exactly happening the way that you put it, but it is, prominently featuring Moose in the. I mean, you can't get more prominently featured than the emblem on the Mercedes. But yeah, it's an interesting choice. Like we said, Moose has definitely been building towards consistently being in the heavyweight picture and certainly being champion for years, and obviously he's had a previous run. But I did not see this coming, but we've been talking about for a while, like obviously they finally pulled a gun with Shelley and it was guns up, and that was probably one of the best things because they're so, rooted in the DNA of the company. It just felt good that they was getting their flowers, felt like they was getting their flowers at the same time. But I don't know about this. I like Moose, I like that he's champion, but I don't know. I feel like it's some more stuff to get out of this Shelley, not necessarily being a full face as a champion, but still being that guy. It's weird. It's a weird space. And to your other point, I wonder how much of it decision was made because of the person that was up next to be the challenger.
And I think that has a lot to do. I think having Moose win the belt, focusing so much on who's next, like it feels like that Roman Reigns facing off the Sheamus just so they can try to get Roman some heels to help get Roman over on. I feel like that's kind of what they're doing, and if that's the case, I don't know if I like what's happening next. So, we'll see in time. It's just hyperbole.
Yeah.
They are doing a bit of a time splitters versus not time splitters. What's their trio called?
Time Machine.
Time Machine. It looks like they're going to be doing a Time Machine versus the System feud going forward for a little bit, at least according to the spoilers. So we'll see what happens. It could be interesting. It could be bad, but only time will tell. Let's talk about the titles. We talked about the belts before. Everyone is saying that the current world title is the best world title they've ever had. I say no. The original TNA 2007 title is the best they've ever had. And I'm not overly a fan of these new belts. That being said, I don't hate any of them. I think all of them are good. At least good enough. I don't like the red. I don't like the white straps, but I also do think that it does set them apart. The red straps set apart the tag divisions. The white straps set apart the women's championship. And then, of course, you have the X Division that's also got the black strap, as well as the digital media and world title. So there is some uniformity. There is some elegance to it. It's a combination of old and new. A lot of these remind me of, with the exception of the digital media title, look like older versions of titles. I want to say the TNA title kind of has a IWGP-esque look to it, while the women's title kind of has an old NWA sense to itself. Or maybe more. What was it? What was Kurt Hennings? Not the NWA, the AWA. I think that's right. The tag team titles kind of have both classic WWF women's tag title look or women's championship look, while the men's tag title kind of looks like a combination of the 2000 the second to most recent tag title design.
Yeah, the beer money belts. Yeah.
Yeah. As well as kind of like with the more oblong look of the more recent ones. The digital media kind of makes me think of the Jeff Hardy belt because of the three prongs on top, but I kind of do like the way it looks. And of course, the X Division is a combination of the first two, really, with a little bit of accents from across the other ones. They're all fine. There isn't one I go, ugh, that's an ugly belt. But also, the best world title to me, even with the big old belt, even with the NWA World title, even with the old IWGP, has always been the 2007 TNA World Heavyweight title. I love that belt.
The Eagle one, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, seeing this one, I'm like, it's a little ostentatious. There's more red than I would prefer. And it feels a little bit more truncated in its look. But it's still nice. It's nice. It's a nice boy. I hope he finds a nice girl belt. And they settle down and have some nice little baby belts. Good boy. But could have been a great guy. Could have been a great looking belt. So not over the moon about it. Don't hate him. Marcus, what's your general takeaway with the current crop belts?
Yeah, I dig them. I love them. I think they're gorgeous. I think it kind of reminds me of when Ring of Honor kind of brought in a more modernized version of their titles, which I don't know if I necessarily had as much appreciation as I could have at the time. Because they very much kind of, I guess, reverted back in a way in certain instances. But yeah, they look great. I mean, this was also a great thing that got them a lot of press too, because I've seen people talking about how great the belts look that don't even cover anything related to the company. So I think it got them a lot of great press. Shout out to the company that did the belt. That did the designs. They, I saw somewhere they wanted to go with a classic but regal styling to them. And to your point, I think they did a great job of, representing the some of the classic styles with embracing, a new flair, if you will, to them. So, very much the overall narrative of this rebrand is blending the old with the new to bring in something substantially modern. So. Yeah, I dig them. I think a lot of people dig them. Some people say they the best titles in all of wrestling. And I definitely get that because people certainly have made some interesting choices when it's come to belt designs. So I think this is a healthy set, and I think it definitely fits the rebrand. So because we was worried going in, and it was weird too because I had gotten used to this last Impact set.
Mm-hmm.
A while, but I had got used to it. But I think the thing that I definitely appreciated the most about this new set, and I talked about it on our preview, was the decentralization of the damn owl.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was but it's hard because it's that, like you said, that 2007 World Championship was great, and I ended up that big goal when that Stinger introduced grew on me.
Which one?
the last TNA heavyweight with the words, the big gold with the silver words going across it, the big one.
Oh yeah, I never liked that one.
That ended up growing on me. But like I said, this last set that was a good set too, and they had their own unique little spins. But it was they switched colors, but that was that was just more of an aesthetic thing for the thing. But yeah, like I said, it's a healthy set, man. It's a healthy set.
Speaking of healthy sets, I adore the new um, promotional photos that they're putting out, the new production stuff. The only conversation point, the only thing I could point out, and it may ruin it for Marcus, is looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, where have I seen this color scheme before? Brother!
I'm so glad you said it because I was gonna say it. I was like the irony. And maybe we could view it as a middle finger to the guy that basically put his foot in the ass of the company at the time, which was one of the reasons why they lost the name in the first place.
Yeah.
And by lost, I mean had to drop it because it had no value whatsoever by the time him and I know what's good for all of wrestling ever Bischoff did to it. So yeah, I think there's some unique irony there. You know,
No bet.
yeah,
No bet. It looks nice though. I do like it. Jokes
yeah.
aside, I like the styling. I like the lettering. I like the color scheme. I like the way that they're doing like the centralized photo of like, ooh, like Zia Brooks says like, oh, I'm just so silly and shy, and then the other one's like, ah. It's like, all right, no, I like that. It's showing two sides of the character. I like that. I feel
Yeah.
like I feel like it works real good. All right, last kind of point. We're going to talk a little bit about the Nick Nemeth signing. Both Nemeth and Zia Brooks had to sign deals with the company. Hammerstone has not. Ash by Elegance of Merdana Brooke has signed with the company as well. Do you feel like Nick Nemeth was the guy to bring in? Because, and I don't know this for a fact, but I will bet 3 of my toes, my left testicle, my right ear, and 15 pounds of hair, which I can mostly get from my chest. I can bet all that in saying that they had a plan to go with CM Punk and then Will Ospreay, and then they were left scrambling. I believe in my heart of hearts, that is what they expected. I think they had CM Punk agreed to a deal, maybe not definitively, but I think they said we can give you 1.7 million, and Punk's like, all right, let me think about it. I think he made a call to WWE to see if they would match or beat. Because, and I don't blame him. You know, he's 45, 46, 44, something like that. He wants to be in front of as many eyes as possible, and he wants to make as much money as possible. That's not going to be TNA. We know that. So, like, no ill will. And Will Ospreay, same kind of shtick. So I feel like there were situations where, like, hey, maybe TNA is not the best place for those guys to be, even if they would benefit the company the most by being there. I feel like Nick Nemeth was the consolation prize. Though 1.1 million views on your debut video, I feel like isn't a thing to thumb your nose at. I still feel like Nick Nemeth wasn't the big ultra signing that they had kind of alluded to. That being said, I don't mind that he's here. I thought about him. Now, granted, this is how I view Nick Nemeth, just kind of give you an idea. I thought him and Shelton Benjamin coming as a tag team would be a great thing. I didn't see Nemeth coming in as a solo star. But we'll see what happens. He's got great hair for being, I think he's like 43. Great hair, great physique, great overall look. He still looks very youthful, still moves very well. He's taking care of his body. He's in great shape. The only real concern that I've always had with him is he's not a great promo. He's a fine promo. He's charismatic. But being charismatic doesn't make you a good promo. And that's kind of the problem that we have here in wrestling is sometimes people think good promos make good characters and good characters make good promos. That's not always the case. Jim Ross, not very charismatic. Hell of a promo. That man, when he wants to get excited, can deliver. Then you have someone like Michael Cole, can cut a promo. He can talk. About as charismatic as broccoli.
Yeah, you take Jim Ross out of WWE in the '90s, specifically those early 2000s. Triple H doesn't get over as good as a heel.
No, not even a little.
Like, like Jim Ross, you couldn't tell me like every time he had anything to say about Triple H, you would have thought that Vince just told him in the headset that he clapped his wife. Like he's like he slept with your wife. We got footage. You son of a bitch! Why? Tell me why? like,
Just
like
not.
everything.
It's just mean.
It's just I'm like, yo, man, like this was a different type of vitriol. Like the Jim Ross taught you how to be a hater audibly. Um, yeah, it's brilliant. But yeah, look, I think they were hopeful for Punk. I think they were banking on Osprey, and I think they ended up getting Nemeth.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think that's how that went. But they didn't have. I mean, look, them was some great spot. Like that's the best rock in a hard place I think you could be in terms of potential signings, right? Because Punk is. I don't know how much, like I said, he didn't really blow me away at all with anything he did in ring wise. Um, in AEW, but that's not really where the money is with Punk. I think the money is anytime he gets on the mic, and to his credit, you've dubbed him what the best on the mic for you, which is high praise. So we know what Ospreay can do in the ring, which I guess if you want to equivalent, I think that's what Ospreay is to the in ring what Punk is on the mic, and
Mm-hmm.
I think Dolph is somebody that's just so good. Um, like I've been a fan of this guy since he debuted. You know, one of my favorite moments in all of wrestling was his Money in the Bank cash in, and I think there was a lot of potential and wasted in WWE, which I think he knows, and everybody else knows, and a lot left on the table. And I think to maybe push back on one of your points, I don't think he was going back at WWE, and I think that's the reason why the first place he popped up in was New Japan, because that's the place where guys go specifically the first chance they get out of WWE because they need to fall back in love with wrestling and they need to prove just how good they were or are. And then I think going to TNA is and look again, we also know what the wrestling narratives are, but so many of these guys, even if they went to WWE, became fans because of TNA. I mean, look, I mean, Will Spread, the Osprey, I think he fell in love with the product because of Styles is like shooting star, springboard shooting star press outside the ring. So I think it's a lot of those WWE guys that were TNA fans coming up, but they ended up in WWE. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think, like I said, I mean, it's not really anybody Dolph can't have a great match with. And given the right, I mean, one of my favorite things that happened over the last maybe year and a half ago when it came to NXT was them randomly sending Dolph down there and taking the title off Braun for a little bit. Because it was so random, but it ended up being one of the best things. So, yeah, Dolph, you put him in the right position, let him go. You talking about some great matches out the gate, and TNA is not short on quality of talent. He can go with anybody, Moose, either one of the Guns, anybody in the X division. It's a lot of meat on that bone to eat. But again, to your point, stop dating people briefly, and then what they did in the past with a lot of those older WWE guys, signing them and making them a champion as a signing bonus with no long term narrative. So yeah,
If you tell me that Nemeth is under a 3-year deal right now he doesn't need to be exclusive, but if you're like, yeah, he's going to be working at least 46 shows for us over the next 3 years, and you want to put the belt on, put the belt on. If you were
yeah,
telling me that he is signed to a 1-year deal, he better not touch gold. I don't even mean like holding it. I mean there should be no promo where he holds the belt because there's no point in him being involved in that point. If he's only going to be around for a year,
yeah.
don't do it. I don't want another damn Trinity situation. I don't want another subculture situation. You may think that getting these guys like Leo Rush to hold the belt for 6 weeks is going to boost things. It doesn't. Now bringing them in, I think, is a good thing. Like Like Leo Rush coming in, like let's just say you build a car and you bring in Subculture and Leo Rush for a 6-man tag where they're taking on, the members of the Rascals. All right, cool. There's value there. You don't need to put the belt on them. The attraction is that these guys who aren't part of the company are coming in to work a match. That's the attraction, and that draws. Doesn't draw gangbusters. It's not The Rock coming out on Monday Night Raw, but people be like, "Ooh, that's interesting." Bring in a guy like Ernest the Cat Miller for a match, not for a title, but have him do a herky jerky thing with Alpha Bravo, like just like have him do his his little dance, and then he throws a feliner and you call it a day. There's value in that. Don't put the X Division belt on Ernest the Cat Miller. Like, some things shouldn't have to be said as often as they are, right? So like I feel like don't put the belt on Dolph if he's not sticking around. Don't put the belt on Zaya Brookside if she's not sticking around. Don't put the belt on Ash by Elegance if she's not sticking around. This is not a situation where you're trying to buy talent. TNA is a place that has good karma. It has good history. Not just historically, like across its 20-odd years, but like Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley have been there for years. Eddie's been there for a decade. Jordan's been there for 4 or 5 years. Rosemary's been there for 8 years. There's so much positivity around how these wrestlers are treated in the modern era that you don't need to be like, let's sign Jinder Mahal or Heath Slater and give them a run with a belt. You're not desperate anymore. You are not the people trying to bring people in. You are the place people want to go. You're third. I'm not saying you're first. You're third. You're absolutely third on the docket, folks. WWE and AEW are 1 and 2 depending on which side is which. Then it's TNA. People want to work there. Hammerstone wants to work there. You're good. So let's see what happens, right? Like long term, let's see what happens. This was a great weekend. People are excited. A lot of people are optimistic about where we're going as a promotion and as a company, and I think that's the right thing to do. I think this was a good weekend. I think all the moves, not all of them are great. There wasn't a bad one. The AJ Francis move, the Zaya Brookside, Giselle Shaw winning, like none of them were bad moves. They may not all be A+ moves, but all of them got a C. All of them got a C at the very least, if not a B, if not an A.
I mean, the potentiality is off the charts with all of these moves. Really, I wonder if there's a potentiality with Dolphin. Maybe he just want to play. I mean, look, I suppose as long as he was with the company, he might want to just keep playing things fast and loose and kind of jump back and forth between New Japan and TNA, which is enough just on the travel alone. Let's be honest. But yeah, I didn't see no bad moves made. What do you make anything out of the Monet and Bailey sighting?
No, I think they're just there to support their friend, which I thought was sweet. Yeah, and they did some photos in the back. Jordan Gray's got a photo with them. I thought that was real nice, mostly because hopefully they never face each other.
Yeah.
Because sadly, when I say that, I know that if Jordan Grace ever does face Monet or Bailey, it's because she's in WWE.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. But that was just a cool wrestling moment to see, and I think since the Wicked Witch has been taken out Wicked by Wicked Witch, I mean Vince. You could, these collaborations or moments like this aren't going to be made such a big deal in terms of you can't. No, they can't, because it's just somebody popping up at an event, not somebody pulling a mutinous event or pulling a tank up to somebody else's organization. Some type of invasion, nothing like that. God knows this company don't need no more invasions. So yeah, I think good stuff all around. Definitely feels like they're back. How do you feel about because I think this was her first real thing. How you feel about Miss Alexander's ring announcer?
Jade Chung did a great job. There were some moments where she definitely seemed a little flustered, and there were some times when you could almost tell mid enunciation, like, oh wait, is it a silent or long A?
Yeah.
But she did good. It was her first time doing it. I thought she did a very good job. It certainly wasn't one of those situations where I was like, oh God, never again.
Yeah.
Definitely was good. little teasing aside, because like it did look like she was like, oh shit, what's my husband's name? There was a little bit. There was a little bit of like being a little overwhelmed. Brand new situation. I don't know if she'd ever done it before, but I liked it. I thought she did fine, and I think she's going to do real well as she gets more and more accustomed to it. Yeah. Now, what she needs to do is, so one of the things about ring announcers, right, is that they never get the credit they deserve. Like, how many times have you ever heard someone say the rated R superstar? Because Tony Chimmel made sure to make that meaningful, right?
Yeah, it's also so much. It's only so much you can do with Edge,
right? But also, like, think about Michael Buffer. A great ring announcer, and I think the best ring announcer of all name. I want to say I'm pronouncing her name right. I think it's Len Hard. Or Hardit. She was the ring announcer for Pride MMA back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And, have you ever seen those TikToks or Instagram Reels where it's like, all right, man, I need a 35-second pause screen soundtrack that loops. It doesn't need to be that impressive. And the guy goes, no, I got this. And it's like the GoldenEye 007 music. And the guy's like, oh, you didn't need to go this hard.
Hilarious.
Len Hart is basically the female version of you didn't need to go this hard for ring announcing. Just go and watch any of her YouTube videos and listen to the way she says Fedor Emelianenko. She says it in the Russian way where she goes, Emelianenko, Fedor. And you're like, oh, this woman is hyped. And I feel like if Jade wants to find that groove as a ring announcer, she needs to find a way to bring a little extra sauce.
Yeah, that comes with time. That's all she needs, because you heard inklings of her trying to find that throughout the show, how she wanted to say certain people's names. I think a good example of that, somebody who settled into that, is Samantha Irvin, Ricochet's girl on WWE.
Current one,
yeah, that could almost be a podcast in itself. But yeah, that's like I said, just need time like you. I think she did a great job. It was cool seeing that Mike being passed in that photo we talked about some time ago. And it's some good stuff, man. It's some good stuff. They cooking right now. It's just hope they keep cooking.
Well, think about like with who was it? Vince McMahon, right? The way he would do Welcome to WrestleMania. Like, he knew it. He knew the assignment. He was a ring announcer. When he started with Vince Sr.'s company, he did a lot of the dirty work, and then he became a ring announcer. The only thing I'll say positively about Vince McMahon was he knew how to enunciate. Welcome to WrestleMania. You're going, oh, yeah. And then you think about... what was the gentleman's name, the black guy who did the voice for TNA for the longest time?
Oh, shoot. Yeah, I think about that, too. By the way, they came over. Whoever did it after him also does a great job and also feels like sometimes a tribute to, what was that man? Barry something, right?
I think so.
I mean, he had I'm like, dude, like, he could have made, like, two squirrels going there. It seemed like it was...
Barry Scott.
Yeah, man. He reminds me of the legendary Keith David.
Yeah, I very much see that.
Yeah.
Apparently, Barry Scott was in one of my favorite Halloween movies, Ernest Scared Stupid. Very small role, but...
Yeah. That's interesting you bring that up. Why they will run everything else. They don't run Ernest movies like that. I noticed that they don't run his movies.
Now, I'm not sure if you're a Ernest Goes What Have You fan. I know I am.
Yeah.
Grew up on that, man. Voice of Slinky Dog. But like Ernest Saves Christmas, amazing. Ernest Scared Stupid, fantastic. Ernest Goes to Jail, love it. I think there's a few more, but like, good golly, love them all. And, like, he's sincere, he's kind, he just wants people to be happy. He's not exactly smart. He's a good man. I feel like we need more of those More of those good type of characters. Ernest Goes to Camp, Ernest Saves Christmas,
Yeah,
Ernest Goes
man.
Seaward, Ernest Rides Again. Don't think I've seen that one.
It's funny. It's like if somebody would have turned Forrest Gump into a series of movies.
Pretty much. Oh God, Marcus, I haven't seen this one. Ernest Goes to Africa.
Oh dear. I feel like this this is where the straight to DVD stuff could have like started, and we just like they didn't have a name for it. Ernest goes, Jesus Christ. Ernest Goes to Africa. That's because there's a Leprechaun in the Hood movie, and yeah, it's, it's exactly what you would expect.
Oh no. Oh no. I've never seen. I've never seen. I've never seen Leprechaun though. Wait, what was it called? Leprechaun Goes to the Hood?
I think Leprechaun in the Leprechaun in the Hood,
I've never seen that.
and there's two of them, Leprechaun in the Hood and Leprechaun Back to the number two, the Hood, and
Oh,
the THA. Jesus Christ.
no. The Leprechaun movies were never good. Ice-T as Mac Daddy Onassis.
Yeah.
Anthony Montgomery as Postmaster P. That's not bad. Rashawn Nile as Stray Bullet. That's actually a really dope name, Stray Bullet. Coolio as himself.
Yeah, man. It's oh man.
Jeez. All right, I feel like that's a good point to end the show on.
Yeah. Well, what would you grade Impact's inaugural 2024 pay per view?
I'd go a B. I would go a solid B. Some of the debuts I thought could have been better. I was hoping that they found something unexpected. Like we had talked before about Monet, Goldberg, some other guys, but like I was hoping they would have like, oh, yeah, I didn't even realize it could have been so and so. So like they didn't get that, but that's a personal disappointment. I wouldn't call any of the debuts or the signings bad. I think they all will help the promotion. So when that's the case, I can't really fault them too much. So I'll go a B. Because I think some of the matches could have been a little bit better. The tag match, I thought the digital media belt should have been on the main show, but I understand because of its whole shtick, you know, it has to be the main on the pre-show side of things. I wasn't happy that Shelley lost because I thought that the Moose stuff, I don't think Moose is, you know, hot enough right now as an act to warrant getting the belt. It feels like a change for the sake of a change instead of putting the belt on a guy who was ready to go. So like there were some issues, but overall it was a really damn good show. And I think if you just sit back and watch it, you'll enjoy the hell out of it.
Yeah, man. Like I said, this is what they say. This was the largest attendance they have for a TNA pay per view in years. Certainly, leading up to it with all the fanfare around the belts, like I said, people talking about it that never talk about the company. And it just felt like I said, that we've been talking about for the longest time when they initially made the announcement about bringing the name back, it felt like they earned their name back.
Mm-hmm.
Took off a decade plus, but that also, is due to the fact of just how irreparable it seemed that the stain on the name was. And they put the work in. Yeah.
And this is the thing that always irked me. Like, Bischoff pushed for the name change because it's like Impact Wrestling is more marketable to execs. Yet, they had fewer brand deals after the name change. Clearly, the name wasn't the issue. So it feels like they changed the name for no reason. Because Impact Wrestling is the brand that I associate with from like 2011 on. Yeah. And like that's a lot of the darkness that I think of when I think about this company. Like 2011 was a bad year. Had some good pay-per-views, but it was a bad year. 2014 was a bad year. 15 was the worst year I think they've ever had. 2015 is the 1995 version of TNA. Like, if you think about like WWE, I don't know how much WWF you watched in 1995 because I think you were an itty bitty Marcus, itty bitty little green. But like that was terrible wrestling from the WWE deserved to go out of business with how bad of a product they were producing. And I feel like that was 2015 TNA. Like they were taping shows every 12 weeks.
World title series.
Oh, it was terrible. Matt Hardy win, I think the thing that really pissed me off the most was like it caught up EC3's title, and it ruined it because he won it. Then and I think that was like 2016.
Yeah,
but it could have been 2015. I don't remember. It's all one big terrible blur. EC3 pins Kurt Angle on a TV taping that was scheduled to air before Slammiversary. Instead of booking television to Slammiversary for EC3 to win the title. It made no goddamn sense what they were doing.
Yeah. Signing champion showing up to shows, not necessarily signed.
Bobby Roode.
Yeah, that whole they basically had to hand the damn promotion, felt like, to the Hardys at one point in 2015 because that's all they had really.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was, they got buzz around it, but it wasn't like that was the only thing that was, and that was like really one of the worst times for you because you begrudgingly had to sit there and like you hated it, but it was like, yeah, this is kind of just what it is, and then we had to kind of find, I enjoyed it overall, but it's like that was the only thing. Everything else around it was in goddamn limbo, and thank God they had that at that time. But yeah, between the Hardys and the World Title Series, that really was, and the narrative around being cash flow positive, that was some just dog times. Destination America was not the destination. I actually liked Pop TV, but
Pop TV was a great get because Pop TV was in a lot more homes. Yep. It had better lead-in, better follow shows. Yep. Like it was a very solid brand. Now, I think more than likely Pop TV couldn't afford Impact any longer because, Pop TV had TNA Impact and Schitt's Creek on at the same time.
Yeah.
That's remarkable considering the legacy of both of those respective brands. And now they have nothing. Nothing that has caught the eye of the mainstream media. So, like, when you think about that, I think they lost money. And I don't think they lost money necessarily on any one thing. I just think they lost money because I don't even know what airs on that station anymore.
Yeah, because Schitt's Creek was their biggest thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think a merger might help them. So, like, they have, like, they basically have the same schedule now as Ion. FBI, ER, Criminal Minds, NCIS New Orleans. That's it. Like it's just a bunch of like procedural crime dramas. So that's terrible.
Yes.
Once upon a time.
Well, yeah, just like you, I think I'll go B+ just for definitely some decisions I would have made different. But overall, I thought it was a hell of a way to kick off the thing, and it looks like, there's some real great lifeblood back in the company now. Momentum across the industry more than they've had in years. And, they are definitely consistently in the conversation. Like you said, definitely number 3. But that wasn't even a thing in years past. So, it's hell of a time to be a wrestling fan right now, but certainly a hell of a time to be a TNA fan.
Agreed completely. So with that being said, let's wrap up the show. For Mark and I'm Chad Portal. Thanks. Let's do the socials first. You can find us on the Twitter at NerdCorp, NERDCRP, and on the website at realnerdcorp.com. We post all of our shows to the YouTube channel, which is, I think it's, what is it? The Wrestling Underground? So check us out there. We stream on Twitter at Wrestling Underground. Anyway, you can find us on the website. That's where I would recommend going. I own these names, and I don't remember them. I want to say it's Wrestling Underground for Twitch, The Wrestling Underground for YouTube, and then of course you have the website realnerdcorp.com. We are on Twitter at NERDCRP. And then we have, of course, Marcus, who has his own second show. You can find him on his personal Twitter account, however, on Paradox Kid, PARADOXKID.
That's me.
That's the kid. You can also find him on the his other podcast that he does. It's called The True Penny Show, TRUEPENNYSHOW. They do a whole lot of fun stuff.
Cover a lot of New Japan, a lot of GLEAT, which is a Pacific Asian wrestling promotion you guys can check out, and I'm sure they cover other things as well. I don't catch every episode, but I do try to listen when I can. So check that out as well. You can find me on my personals at Chad Nerdcorp, CHADNERDCORP, and on the Instagram at Chad's Photo at CHADSPHOTOHUT. That's Chad's Photo Hut. Check me out there. I haven't posted anything over a year, so have fun with that. So for Marcus Green, I'm Chad Pardo. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance. Remember, as always, to watch more wrestling. And Marcus, take it home.
Good night.